Hello, is it audible? Can somebody type Y in case if it's audible? Is the screen visible? I hope the screen is visible. Right. So welcome everyone for this class. Today is the third session. We are going to go ahead with the topic on healthcare on project management. So it is basically the topic revolves around the healthcare project management techniques. My name is Dr.NAVANEET. I'm going to talk about today's session, which will be mostly using all the techniques which are used in healthcare industry, revolving around the project management topics. So today we are going to cover the healthcare management techniques. We're going to see the healthcare operations from the project management perspective. So we have three bottom lines. First is a patient satisfaction. Second thing is lowering of the costs, and third is better care of the patients. So healthcare outcomes improvement is an outcome-based education in which healthcare leaders are working hard to continuously refine and advance the processes in order to improve the patient care. Whereas at the same time, they should also be able to reduce the cost so that more and more patients can use the facilities and improve the patient's overall experience and satisfaction. So that is a triple aim of any project management issue so that all the systems are in place where every process planning is being established in the beginning itself. So the project management techniques are implemented. Actually, it began with the manufacturing industries, and then it is the same kind of techniques which are implemented in the services sector. And now it has percolated down onto the healthcare systems. So healthcare project management skills have becoming increasingly important to businesses, including the healthcare industry, no matter whether it is in case of manufacturing of, various pharmaceutical or even in hospitals or even small units of healthcare operations. So basically the triple aim will be to manage and control the costs because costs will keep on fluctuating all the time. There should be some amount of monitoring on the costs and managing the risks and improve the project outcomes as well as understanding the overall sustainability of the project. So the healthcare outcomes improvement will be about the project management techniques, which offers consideration for the healthcare leaders. So be it managers or be it administrators, you can adopt these kind of techniques for clinical, financial, and operational processes. So there will be second or third layer of management in the middle layer, which have to take care of all these outcomes so as to keep track of whether the entire organization is going pragmatically in the right way or not. So it provides pragmatic approaches to implementing project management in a healthcare setting. There are a variety of project management techniques developed for other industries also, which can be applied in healthcare setting, but most of the common are the ones which we are going to focus today on: agile and waterfall project management. So these two commonly used terms, agile project management as well as waterfall project management, are being commonly utilized in most of the countries for healthcare sector. So let's try to understand the first one, waterfall project management in healthcare. So waterfall project management is a sequential linear process that consists of distinct phases. So in a waterfall, what happens is the project is initially mapped out totally, and for each phase sequentially, then it is planned and charted out. So the progress is regularly documented, every step, right from the planning, then procedures, then principles, then practices, each and everything is being documented. And essentially one phase has to complete before the next phase begins. So progress is regularly documented along with the way, and each phase is completed before the next phase is going to begin. So we can say in a batch wise, earlier it was implemented in the manufacturing sector as a batch wise production. Sometimes some other countries are having mass production units. So these are the same things which are implemented down into the healthcare industry. In healthcare, there are a lot of people who are both familiar and comfortable with the waterfall approach. So what is this waterfall approach? Let's try to understand. So healthcare executives want to see the sequence of tasks laid down from the beginning to the end in a Gantt chart. So most of you are quite familiar with the type of timetables which are used for weekly schedules. Okay, so what are you going to achieve in the first week and the second week? The same thing will be known as Gantt chart. This provides a visual overview of the project with the timeline of events and a good idea of how each phase of the project is going to take. So waterfall project management does a great job of communicating the overall project scope and tasks with a timeline. So case and example will be, although this is hazy and not very clear, but still I'm just explaining. In the first phase, this is analysis phase. It carries for 2 weeks. Then we move on to the design phase, where they are going to design each and every part of the hospital. That carries on for several subsequent weeks. Then you have the developmental phases. So they are going to test and try whether everything is in place or not. So that developmental sequence is happening. So the same project management scheduling is being implemented in healthcare. And then comes a testing phase, whereby they have to see synchronously whether everything is in place and all the documentation part and taking care of the patients and satisfaction of the patients is being met as per the required standards. After the testing, then you'll have the implementation finally. So there are basically 5 phases: the analysis phase, the design phase, the developmental phase, the testing phase, and the implementation phase. So this waterfall project management, once you are completely done with the analysis phase, then only you can enter into the design phase. That's how it normally functions. But we are going to see in subsequent slides as to why this may not be the only case in every hospital. There may be other ways of doing things. So the designing phase is most crucial in order to understand how many staff are required, what kind of facilities are required for both the patients as well as the people who are accompanying them, for the nurses, what kind of facility, all the design phase. Then the developmental phase will be what type of specialty units one has to have. Then the testing will be whether everything is in correct place, and monitoring and executing and tracking the systems, whether the patient will be finally be more satisfied at the end of the entire sequences. So this is the testing phase, and finally implementation phase. So these are the 5 phases of waterfall project management in healthcare. So it looks to be too rigid. So waterfall tends to be too rigid in structure, as we know, for a good reason. So waterfall methodology has its roots in industries such as manufacturing, construction. Earlier, the civil construction people and workers, they started adopting this waterfall project, mainly out of necessity. For instance, a builder can't paint a room if he hasn't put up a drywall. So if you have a drywall, until and unless you have 1 or 2 days meant for that, you cannot go in for a painting. So it is with this kind of an agenda that unless the specific event previously has been completed, the next event cannot be taken up. So, however, with this translation of waterfall on other industries, including the software development, process improvements and project improvements are finding it much being challenging nowadays and can hinder the project also. Sometimes becoming too rigid is also not good because flexibility is lost in this case. So, despite that, waterfall project management has its own advantages for the healthcare industries. That's why more or less everywhere in the initial stage, at least when the new hospital is being launched, right from the scratch, from the land, labor, and building, waterfall project management will take its own phases to get established. So with healthcare process improvement, project using a waterfall only approach can be difficult for a sequential step-by-step process from the beginning to end. So you can adopt something similar to the PDSA cycle, which is adopted from the Japanese technology. So PDSA is very simple in terms of saying that everything has to be all the commitment towards forming the committee, organizing all the resources in the planning stage. Then comes the doing stage. The same sequence as we saw previously for the waterfall. So more or less the PDCA cycle or PDSA cycle, both are the same. So they are coming with their sequence of iterations. So the PDSA cycles allow the teams to iterate and show the progress slowly, and then results are usually better, provided that one phase is completed. So people who are required in the first phase may not be required in the second phase. Expert planner consultants are required in the planning phase. All experts from medical fraternity are being called upon in the planning phase. Then they will diversion, they'll go back to their places. Then the doing phase comes. So there are experts who are going to visit. Then the study phase as to implementation of how to estimate and how to authorize some standardizations in the process, all these things, and finally acting upon the entire sequences. So the team formation, form, norm, storm, perform. So these are the stages of team formations, which are we usually study in the form of principles of management. And of course, in the business studies, that's being implemented in the PDC or the PDSA cycle. Then waterfall project management has been used successfully for decades to complete the large scale project, but these projects are often over budgeted and behind schedule. So most often than not, everything doesn't go as per the plan. There may be deviations, there may be disruptions, there could be subversions at times. So stakeholders can also be dissatisfied with the end result because they're not intimately involved in the process. So since the formation of the team is happening on a temporary basis, so let's say 1 year for the planning stage, then another 1 year for the doing and all, it may take extended periods of time, and people are not really happy typically in terms of even finishing the project. So most of them may have to, let's say a hospital having 10 floors, initially the first 4 to 5 floors are open, then the subsequently based upon the budget considerations or constraints, then the next, depending upon how many patients are going to be admitted, all those things are going to be added in sequential form. So stakeholders can also become dissatisfied with the end result because they're typically not as intimately involved in the process and don't see final results until the project is complete. So it has its own disadvantages. But then with the economic pressures faced by the hospital systems is more important than ever to deliver faster results with continuous involvement, okay, and feedback from stakeholders incorporated throughout the process. So even before you start a new hospital, you have to take the feedback from most of the people who are going to give suggestions and recommendations in order to carry out a specific way or the pathway in which the people who are promoters and developers have to think about it in the initial phases itself. So this is where the lean methodologies such as agile project management can be utilized. By the process, agile in the sense only when there's a demand for certain essential things or super specialty things, only then they can be availed. It's not like all of a sudden you make a new project and heavy investments are done and there is no required number of patients. That didn't happen in China. That, for instance, in case of railways, they started bullet trains and all, but suddenly they found that there are no takers. Half of the train is empty. So it may not be financially worthwhile in order to start some projects which are very large enough, but at the end of the day, they don't have anybody to use it. So this is where the lean methodologies such as agile project management can be utilized by process improvement teams to achieve faster and high-end quality results. So now we can go into the second mode of understanding projects. So slowly from waterfall, we are going into the agile project management in healthcare. So agile is an iterative project management style derived from lean principles. So from the supply chain management, you can say the domain, we have incorporated this agile project methodology that took shape in the team-based software development. So from the software development industry, Agile has come and encourages collaboration and frequent adaptation. So here are a few hallmarks. The first one is the sprints. They got some sprints typically divided into sprints where the project produces a certain amount of work within a specified amount of time. So let us say typically 2 weeks. Then you have the stand-up meetings. Okay, then agile teams meet regularly, often every day or once, at least twice in a week. Then they discuss about the progress, and the teams will ultimately give the deadlines, and they also track how much of progress has happened so far in every week. So there could be impediments, what are the hurdles they have to cross. All those things are discussed in the stand-up meetings. Then eventually the Scrum Master based on project leader brings everyone together and ask the team members of the commitments of what they will accomplish during each sprint. So they will themselves decide the key performance indicators. They will set the goal. So after finishing one goal, what could be the another goal? So Scrum Master will evolve the various sprints, and they will discuss for the subsequent 6 months what are going to be their itinerary for the future. So that's how the iterations are done. And retrospectively, at the end of each sprint, the team comes together with a review and they accomplish what they learned from the previous process that can hopefully be incorporated into the next sprint. So all these four things, sprints, stand-up meetings, and Scrum Master and retrospectively thinking, these are the larger models in which the agile project management in healthcare business is being taken care of. Similarly, which is one step ahead because it came from the IT industry, but the previous ones, like we have seen waterfall, it essentially came from the manufacturing as well as the construction industries. So this is coming from the IT industry. So waterfall management, project management is coming from the engineering phase, sections on the domains only. Agile also coming from engineering, but more from the software side than from the earlier traditional ones of domains of engineering. So agile project management in healthcare, the focus on frequent communication is required and removing obstacles. Every now and then, every task will have some kind of ways, some kind of obstacles, some kind of hurdles that has to be removed with a lot of commitment, dedication, effort, and time. So it makes a very effective tool for process improvement that want to show the value. So what kind of value? Every organization wants to add some amount of value. Okay. So there's no organization which can say I will add value on certain months and some other months I'm not going to add value, because there's a constant need and feedback from all the stakeholders, right from the board of directors, executive, CEO, MD, and thereupon for all the entire staff members and clinicians as they progress from one iteration to another iteration. So they have subsequent meetings, maybe quarterly meeting or something like that. They have to publish that in their annual reports. And then agile is increasingly popular for the benefits mentioned above, because it will render fast results and with continuous improvements, slow improvements, but continuous improvements, and increased with buy-in for the stakeholders. So every stakeholder has something in for him to decide that what kind of goal he is going to achieve because of that cycle in the life cycle of the entire hospital. So if the teams don't have a longer term view, okay, like a Gantt chart or something similar, then they can again they can get stuck and doing something else. So they'll be busy in doing very little adding the value unless you make a Gantt chart. So this preparation of a Gantt chart, when the project is going to finish one phase and enter into another phase, is very essential and critical. Otherwise, people will enter into something known as gold plating. This gold plating is nothing but people are doing their own minute work. They are improving in their level. The department is somehow functioning very good, but it is not in synchronous line with other departments. So if every department has to function together, they have to prepare. Like for example, there is an application known as Slack, SLA leakage Slack. So you can, whenever you find time, you can just try to understand what is the Slack. Now, Slack is the latest software which has come, whereby all the people in the organization are on the same page. They are trying to understand what is happening in every department. Because otherwise, what will happen? One department will start like gold plating. Another department is not having any resources to meet the subsequent phases of implementation. So the PDSA cycle will be incomplete in those cases. So there will be potential pitfalls in this agile management healthcare also. So one has to be literally cautious about gold plating. Then comes, while agile is a good day-to-day blocking and tackling the project management technique, teams can get easily lost in the detail. Okay, some people are really interested in all the detail, losing the picture of the bigger end goal. The bigger picture is lost. So people are interested in day-to-day activities. They are specializing in themselves, but they are not, as a whole, they are not contributing to the entirety of the entire project management sequence, which we are discussing, known as the agile project management, which came from the IT industry. And this is where the teams could benefit from having some of the structure of waterfall. Sometimes they fall back into waterfall mode, and then again they can go back to the agile project management in healthcare. So these give and take is almost all the time available. So when you don't have agile project management systems, you don't know what is going to happen next. They will fall back, and some of the structure they may fall back into waterfall in place. Waterfall is something that one happens, then only then the second phase is going to happen. So these two systems have to have synchronization. At least we cannot rely, say that entire hospital will be only for agile project, or the another hospital will be entirely on the waterfall. The sequences are based upon the requirements, needs, and demands from time to time. Either they have to stick with agile project during some phases, and some other phases they will have to stick back to the waterfall. Now, taking a hybrid approach is always important, because these benefits and drawbacks, which are beneficial in terms of drawing the best advantages of both the systems combined. So both waterfall and agile project management techniques are required. So in the professional service organization, as for instance, the case in point, which example has been taken, is known as Health Catalyst Organization from the US. Taking a hybrid approach to healthcare project management and hospital systems is frequently the best option. So they have found hybrid model is better, neither fully agile nor fully waterfall. So in a hybrid approach, teams leverage the best aspects of both techniques with a heavier focus on agile, but enough waterfall planning to provide a clear roadmap to stakeholders and senior leadership. So they will also know that what's happening around every now and then, whether heavier focus on agile is required and a little bit of focus as and when required on the waterfall. So taking a hybrid approach, like, well, every organization is unique in terms of what it requires and what kind of specialty it will offer. The outcome-based improvement is very essential. So that is known as outcome improvement project. So what it may look like is having a team to create a Gantt chart that shows the high-level timeline and an overall breakdown of the work in phases. So each and everything is broken down. The higher tasks are there, higher goals are there. Those are subdivided and to minute things for the departmental level. Every departmental HOD will have to know that he is dependent upon the overall functioning and not just becoming specialist alone. So it is more or less a generalist field in whereby you have to know each and everything. You can say it is most comparable with the generative AI, which has grown in over a period of time, because almost all of them are giving feedback. They are training the AI models and they are iterating them, and they are becoming more advanced over a period of time. So this chart could help them present to senior leadership and clinicians in order to get that kind of a buy-off. There's a trade-off, okay, between two models. So this kind of understanding with the planning sequence is very essential in order to execute them finally. So for the improvement team, each phase of work would then be broken down into more set of minor tasks, and typically applying agile principles with sprints. Okay, and then team members' commitment will be specified, that what has to be done, what will be the job description in this phase. After 6 months, what will be the job? So job descriptions itself can change over a period of time, right? So, for instance, if a team is working on developing a sepsis, which is a terminal condition, which we call in the healthcare, so we have to see what is the overall improvement for the application. For example, that may set out to complete within a set of efforts. What kind of efforts is required from the nursing fraternity, from each and every department, like pharmacy, insurance, and each and everything. The project may be broken down into 3 separate iterations, each lasting approximately 1 month in duration. So they have to set the standards. Okay, and they have to have some kind of control over the data. So pragmatic approach of the healthcare practice management is, in case of the case in point is Health Catalyst, typically begins with a pre-existing out-of-the-box starter set and use cases that show the baseline functionality of the sepsis outcome improvement application using the client's own data. So how many clients have been sent way back with a lot of satisfaction on this course. So from there, the users will come with a set of enhancements, and they can improve make the organization as per the requirements of the end users. So this is a call known as fingerprinting. Okay, so this is minute breaking down of the tasks into fingerprinting, each and everything being documented. Because in some cases, like if you compare this with a normal government hospital, we are afraid that not much of that documentation itself taking a lot of time, from moving from one department to another department, pushing the files from one department to another department. There are silos of work which is pending. So it should not happen like that, because eventually the private hospitals are much more there in order to provide value and also improve the appearance, as well as in terms of its features for the end user, so that even he knows there should be transparency in the entire system. So the pragmatic application of the healthcare practice management should have some kind of consultative approach between the providers and the end users. So once the users have been using the application for several months, the third iteration might include a new set of improvements based upon the deeper understanding of the process and how it could be improved. So it's basically trial and error. Okay, you cannot go without a real life experience. So one has to have all these those iterations that will be extended onto the Gantt chart, and details of each of the iterations would be expressed as sprints within the agile process. So each sprint will have a definite timeline in which some activity has to be accomplished, and after completing that accomplishment of certain time-based models, it should be smarts, that is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. So the pragmatic approach will have a kind of, knowing the right tools, which is very important, whether to adopt the Japanese tools. Basically, it's agile, more or less it came from earlier in the total quality management from the Japan, and then then previously, which waterfall we have adopted from the construction and manufacturing sector. For effective healthcare project management, we should have a particular software which should lay out the project, allowing multiple users to make the changes. It's not that people have made the software and all of them are literally going to add the data, because most of them are not. Okay, they are not going to adopt unless you are given freedom to change what is happening. So making changes has to be allowed for every end user, and measuring the progress is another aspect of having the right kind of tool and framework that helps improvement team to do the job effectively. So all the people who are involved has to have some kind of liberty and freedom in order to change the things as per their capacities, their abilities, and their competencies. And finally, you are having a overall like a mind mapping of the entire project. So pragmatic application of healthcare practice is very essential. Otherwise, it becomes very rigid in some cases, or it becomes very slow in another. That's the main reason which we, in subsequent slide, we are going to understand why healthcare units are not being adopting the latest advances in technologies happening in the engineering field. So that's what the project management entirety speaks about. There are some pitfalls which we cannot easily overcome unless you know the nitty-gritties of what is has to be what the focus has to be upon. Whether it is the software, whether it should be the doctors, whether it should be patients, or the whole lot of stakeholders involved. Who has to be given more important? Whether the owners themselves, or promoters, or the government bodies which have to standardize themselves. So there are all the stakeholders which are there. It becomes a very complex maze of solutions in which one has to decide what has to be given priority on other. So that's why one has to be pragmatic. So project management skills are good, and only the good project managements are needed in healthcare now more than ever. So project management techniques such as the waterfall and agile can offer structure and discipline. A hybrid approach is pragmatic way to accomplish more in less time. So all are hunting for information these days. So everybody is asking for information, but within what time information, that has to be decided. It's not like information overload and then dividing into subunits, not like that. For what is the focus? What the organization wants to become in the next 5 years? That's what whether it's the expansion phase or specialization phase or refining or providing more better services. So all those finest decisions had to be taken because everybody has to be on the same page. Okay, so let's try to see one case like pressure without progress. Okay, so this is what one of the American companies wants to undertake. So what they were finding is Medicaid redeterminations. So creating volatility in the patient mix. You've got CMS, in which you got Centers for Medicaid Services, what that is known as US, and FHIR, okay, related to fast healthcare interoperability resources. So they have FHIR stands for fast healthcare interoperability resources. So all that has to mingle with each other. So the systems have to know and be compatible with each other. So CMS mandates are increasing and their prices are also increasing. And one of the sources has said financial pressure, which has become too much by 2023, that nearly 4 out of 10 hospitals ended with negative margins. So that's the status in US. So nearly 4 out of the 10 hospitals in 2023 had negative margins. Okay. So the market forces are colliding with each other. So many people are investing heavily in the AI, but it's not generating as much of success as required. So there is an investment gap. So what is that? The platform investment gap is most health systems have invested in cloud, and they've invested in data, they've invested in artificial intelligence, but still can't measure the real return on investment. Nobody is knowing how much money is coming out of that. Okay, because everything is so much complex that unless you have a systems in place, you have the procedures, policies, practices, best practices, and processes in place, there is going to be the platform investment gap. So infrastructure exists. The hospitals are built very nicely, good to look at, very high-rise buildings, but outcomes haven't been caught up. Okay, most of the people are not getting completely satisfied with the kind of things which are going on. So leaders are asking, okay, the ones who have started those things are asking, what are we actually getting from this spend? Okay, after spending this much in AI and data and all those things, what are we actually going to get? So how do we scale the outcomes faster to match our financial risks? Because there is a financial risk. Once you put the money, there's a fixed amount of budget, and it gets logged into the fixed capital. Then there is always a risk, which is associated market risk, is there, financial risk, several other associated risks are there. Is AI just another promise that won't pay off? That's the biggest challenge. So this is one of the cases which has been taken from the health catalyst. They are trying to understand whether implementation of AI at such a speed is going to make any difference for the final end user. So in the audience poll, it was asked for some people that what the biggest barrier to achieving the outcomes. Okay, what is the main problem? Okay, for the data analytics in the investments. So we have the data, but we can't turn into actionable insights. Okay, all of them have the data. There is a lot of information overload, but they cannot be turned into actionable insights. Second one, our infrastructure isn't flexible or scalable enough, so we cannot grow at a larger scale. The third one is clinical, financial, and operational teams are too siloed. So they are independent. Clinical team is independent of its own. They are specialized. Financial team is also independent. Operational teams are also siloed. They are very slow. They don't have synchronization in between them. So we don't have the resources finally. Some of them have no time. Some of them don't have resources. Some have time, no resources. Another person has resources, no time. So all these things were asked to a certain group of people. So what they came up is, why the most platforms, okay, stall in healthcare. What is there which makes it very slow? The three common approaches. First of all, why they are falling short? Because the first one is either they will go for generic platforms, right? Or they'll go for point solutions, or they go for mega platforms. One has to go with a smaller one, or you have to go with the mega platform, right? So what you get from the generic platform is flexibility. So why did they go at all in the first place? Because it offered flexibility. That's why they had gone with the generic platforms. So why it failed? Because no healthcare logic. Okay, very too slow to value actually. So the generic platforms are too slow to value. There is hardly any value addition happening here in general platforms. The second point, solutions. The specific point solution, specialized depth is there in every specific kind of critical care, but they cannot scale it. They cannot enlarge it just because it's profitable. It's hard to justify return on investments in this also. Okay, return on investments is, you can say, not optimum. Then third thing is, after this AI has come up and all those things, enterprise power is going to get bigger. So mega platform, the larger hospitals, they came up with enterprise level power, but what it gave us is too rigid, hard to adapt, and deprioritize healthcare. So basically, it couldn't prioritize healthcare on top. So it became too rigid and had to adopt. So healthcare leaders are forced to choose between speed, specificity, and scalability. So one has to decide whether you want speed on one hand, or you have to have the kind of specificity what is required for the patient's kind of critical care, or the scalability. You go on adding one more hospital, another, whether you can add one more hospital or one more unit into the hospital. So scalability, what has to be chosen? Whether speed has to be chosen, specificity has to be chosen, or scalability. But they don't have to do literally in these three modes. Okay, some solutions have to be given in a different way. So what they came up with is unified data platform. So in the unified data platform, it has a model infrastructure in case hospital plus the healthcare intelligence systems, okay, outcomes that you can trust. So this Health Catalyst is the organization which added clinical and financial logic models. Okay, they started adding models like clinical and financial logic models, although they are not very mature models, but still they came up with a unified data platform to begin with. Then they thought of brick by brick, the data brick enabled scalability plus AI foundation. So at least the basics of project management issues taken from Agile that has been incorporated in healthcare. Then pre-built dashboards are being built. Everybody knows where they are. Plus the benchmarks have been set as per what has been achieved as compared with other organizations. So benchmarks are set. Then secure FHIR ready. The FHIR nothing but fast healthcare interoperability resources. So interoperability means other units of the healthcare systems, whether they are interoperable with the hospital units. So secure transactions have to happen. Like for insurance data has to come to hospital, then bank data has to come to hospital, then the government data has to come to hospital. It has to be secure. It has to be FHIR ready. So they have to form a regulation, the framework in which FHIR ready they become. Then health catalyst adds that this particular organization is adding regulatory compliance plus submission workflows. So submission workflows were already there in the previous generic models, but regulatory compliance in healthcare becomes too critical because every state, every region, every district has its own regulatory compliances in different way, and sometimes it is there in a different language also. So it has to offer multiple languages. And then came something in the US, since they have more or less only one language. So delta sharing. So healthcare specific data enrichment. So specific data enrichment is required. So you have to have a detailed value analysis. You can't go each and every time behind one laboratory and go on asking them reports after report. So delta sharing means sharing the same data across all the organizations. Just like in US universities, if you want to go from one university to another university, the credits are going to be easily transferred. Similarly, in hospitals also, they are trying to have a delta sharing model from wherever the patient is moved from one place to another place, all the data is being enriched so that there's nobody to intervene and restrict the data from passing from one place to another place. So these kind of data bricks against the healthcare catalyst, they are trying to evolve in the project management scenario, in which they are going to have a unified architecture plus domain expertise on one hand. You have the visual value stack layer diagram on the other hand, so that everybody is having on the same page, they can have the visuals and analytics. And the message is don't trade scale for specificity. So either you can be specific, that means you can be effective, or you can be efficient. The same person cannot be effective as well as efficient. So there has to be a trade-off between becoming efficient on one hand and another way effective on another hand. So the message is very clear. Don't trade scale for specificity. If some of the organization want specificity, they have to go for that, and some other will go for trade. But nowadays they are trying to have both, best of both the worlds. Okay, because of development of technologies. Okay, so all the three things can be combined. You can have both the things. Earlier, people were highly, they were very favorable hospital. The people, if you can, even if somebody asks you in the dream also, which is the best nearest hospital, they will literally on their fingertips, they will tell which is the best hospital. So that because some of the best hospitals are being specific in providing those services, whereas the others have just traded for scale. They have improved in terms of quantity, but there is no quality inside. So all these things have the dimensions have to be brought together. So that's what is project management is all about. And it can be done by providing unified architecture plus domain expertise plus visual value stack or layer diagram plus the giving the message that you can have the both the scale as well as specificity. So the McKinsey and Company came that, okay, you have handled that risk so far so good. Okay, but then after risk, the most common roadblocks are insufficient capability. We don't have people who are capable, and insufficient data, and insufficient tech infrastructure and proof of value. So the question is, not every hospital is enabled with all advanced and sophisticated tech infrastructure, and everybody doesn't have the money only in order to have to prove that there is a value. So the most common roadblocks after taking all those risks are insufficient capability, data and tech infrastructure, and proof of value that McKinsey and Company has itself been able to find out. But then let's say try to people still they make a promise, but they backtrack from the promise which they have made earlier. So earlier headlines were in 2015. There was some push for self-driving cars will come into in 2 years by 2017. Although some have come in some of the in the US, the self-driving cars have become a reality. I'm not denying that, but way back they were telling in 2015 self-driving cars, just a meme which is given. In 2016, radiologists will become obsolete in 5 years. That's what he said. In 2024, radiologists in regular cars have started driving to work. Okay. So neither what he envisaged in 2015 came up a reality, nor what radiologists thought that the radiologists will not be there only in 5 years from 2016. That means by 2021 radiologists should have gone obsolete. It didn't happen like that. Finally, radiologists are only going in a regular car without having any self-driving. So what it says, there are promises which are being built upon some dreams, but those promises will are different from the stark reality which the world is facing. What the headlines mattered over previous time was AI will revolutionize the healthcare. Then AI will reduce, I mean, there will be reduction in physician burnout due to this. All the physician burnout will reduce by 50%. That's what the headlines were previously. And some people were telling it can save millions in healthcare costs. Okay. But actual reality is only 77% of the health system cite immature AI tools as primary barrier. The AI tools themselves are immature. Okay, so 77% of the health system cite immature AI as primary barrier, and they are acting as a barrier, not as something which is going to support in the longer run. Only 53% report high success with AI clinical documentation. So there are organizations which are very good in clinical documentation only. There are specific things which have been achieved in specificity, not scalability. Specificity has been achieved to a certain extent. Some studies suggest that AI scribes reduce documentation time by less than 1 minute. So the moment you admit a patient, you have all the documentation ready within 1 minute. Just like how you get pizza delivered within 5 minutes or 10 minutes at your door place. So like that, some suggest that AI scribes can reduce the documentation. It has happened. I'm not denying that it has not happened. So adaptation of artificial intelligence in healthcare, survey of the system priority successes, it was sourced from Poon et al. In 2025. So what it says is a hard truth. What AI is giving is, in project management scheduling, AI amplifies what you're already having. It'll just make it look bigger. Okay. So it will add enhancements only. So, but what it says is, if you have accurate data and reliable data plus AI, it will have better insights. But if you have inaccurate and unreliable data plus AI, can lead to expensive bad insights. So one has to have accurate data plus AI, then it will have better insights. If you have inaccurate and unreliable data, it will have expensive bad insights. So you have a checklist before the AI is implemented. Data has to have completeness. The data has to be available in the first place. Then the integration capabilities and compatibilities have to be used. Data quality has to be assured. Robustness of data architecture has to be finalized. And then governance structures have to be in place. The most essential thing is governance structure has to be in place. A platform for building data and AI solutions. From a data AI perspective, that ignites a platform is of only the foundational value. It is adding only the foundational value, allowing our customers to build and deliver scalable, high impact solution fast and reliably. If you want to go fast, go alone. And they came up with, if you want to go far, then go together. So all the two units using this project management toolkit, utilizing developments in the artificial intelligence and utilizing the specific things in the healthcare units, all of them have to come together so that it has to be an impactful way of laying the foundations. Basically, we are thinking at the basics of project management. It's not something very detail of project management. We are seeing the surface of project management. We are trying to estimate what kind of domains are going to assemble and what kind of things are going to assist us in managing the organization. And there could be gaps in between. What the dream of achieving something may not come out true in the, as much of years as it has been dreamed of, but there could be advantages by adopting all these three tools and techniques. So many AI companies start with technology and then find healthcare applications as a second. Okay. So they started with technology, which is a bad way of starting it. Actually, they should be more concerned about the healthcare applications. So healthcare, at least is a company which started with delivering measurable improvements in healthcare. And then they scaled and enhanced with the AI as a second. So the priority of to be given to the AI is the second priority. The first priority has to be given for health improvements or measurable improvements in the healthcare. And what their competitive advantage in Health Catalyst was, thousands of successful improvements initiatives have been taken by the Health Catalyst in US, deep understanding of the healthcare operational realities, proven methodologies for AI-powered scaling has been taken place. Tracking the record of measurable and sustainable outcomes are very important. That's what they are trying to achieve. Now, there are people that what will be the next step? The next step is how can we use the AI? Are there any specific tools that one has to learn? Versus what problems are we trying to solve? Entirely, what is that actually are we trying to solve by implementing project management into the healthcare? Okay. So first has to be narrow focus. To begin with, all of the focus has to be really narrow, very, very specific, very, very, you know, um, well, I can say narrow in the sense the way in which the specificity has been increased has to be given more importance. From the generic software which they already started, the healthcare priorities has to be on top rather than the AI. Then there should be clear value addition in terms of measurable cost, whether it's more affordable, that makes more sense for the end user, whether it is timely, and whether it is outcome improvement. So it should be outcome bound, not money bound. So outcome improvement has to be there. So clear value addition of the organization has to happen. Then willing users and partners. People have to find who are the early adopters, who are the subject matter experts and champions in use for this cause, which are the associations which are coming up and contributing for the welfare of the entire healthcare industry. Then existing workflow has to be integrating and don't disrupt. People are just increasing the sophistication just to disrupt. That should not be the case. They should be able to integrate. That's what the existing workflow has to be built around. Then comes a refine and learn. So based upon the feedback received, based upon the results, they have to return the focus with the lessons learned. And the lesson learned has to become a top priority of the policy making in the organization. From the policy, they have to establish the procedure. From the procedure, they have to establish the practices. From the practices, they have to ensure the processes. So all this will become scale successful patterns. Once this happens, then you can scale successful patterns to the broader use cases. Once it is established that something is successful, then the same thing has to be adopted elsewhere. Okay, so project management is something, some projects are very successful, some other projects may not be on time, some are delayed, some are heavily loaded with backlogs, like a lot of financial bickering happening in those projects. As we, it is a reality in every country. It has got every country is having its own givens. You cannot change those givens. You cannot compare India and America and then say whatever is implemented in America will be directly implemented in India. It cannot happen like that. So we have to adopt certain technologies with project management, more or less the smaller incremental continuous improvement sequences, which will add value to the overall generic development, or you can say organic development, which is happening in the hospitals. So you can say Ignite as an enabling platform in the case so that it becomes solid, scalable foundations with expert partnership. So nowadays you can have various at the tip of your fingertips. You are able to see who are the doctors, which are the medicines. You can buy it online also. So people are trying to understand clinical cost intelligence. They have come up with the clinical cost intelligence. Okay. So the Ignite platform is another platform, and data model are help to facilitate data accessibility. First one, healthcare specific, comprehensive and intuitive, enables rapid testing, experimentation with AI/ML systems, and Databricks provides foundation for easy, rapid deployment and model management. So the same thing can be adopted in various places. So measuring your AI, leverage our robust purpose to build the tracking and evaluation with AI capabilities. So in a way, forward is successful. It should be successful in the first place. Only then it can be implemented elsewhere. Generalizability cannot be done in every hospital. So the most of the people who are coming across these kind of sentences or these kind of sayings are like realizing cost efficiencies, mounting pressure to reduce the cost. Every hospital is behind this. We need to reduce the health system wide cost by 30% over the next 5 years. This will be the CEO. What the CEO is going to decide. What is their goal? They have to reduce the cost. Okay, second, our goal as a health system to eliminate 300 million in cost over the next 3 to 5 years. So realizing this is important. So just deciding this is not, it should be realistic also. So with the kind of CMS rolling out transformation episode accountability team, they came up with, it is critical that we maximize our efficiency and our cost care. So the cost is becoming more or more, you can say, the centers for Medicaid services, just like on the foundation for reach all the people throughout, including rural masses and all. Just like our central government's units for providing medicines for lesser cost. So same things kind of a thing, but maybe at a higher or richer level. So realizing cost efficiencies is becoming too critical because most of the healthcare are becoming out of the reach of a common man. So you are having activity-based costing. So hundreds and thousands of combinations of providers, procedures, and supplies are there. Okay, then the goal is to reimburse those things. Some kind of reimbursement is happening and deliver those insights as understandable, actionable, and measurable financial efficiencies. So we got something bigger in terms of AI, more critical, which is not very important from your perspective, but it is large language model agent, then ontology mapping, then variational analysis, opportunity screening, then large language agent model, statistical machine learning models, then quality improvement models. All these multi-step or multi-agent framework is being developed. Okay, so ABC allows to understand the true cost. Okay, because they are unable to recover the cost after investing heavily. So that's the whole problem. So one thing is costing the data itself is important. Costing the data itself is very important. Supply, labor, then imaging, everything, costing the data, then risk complexity metrics. Okay, then you got length of stay, 30-day readmission, all those things. Healthcare specific data models are talking about these kind of data. So expert data collections are talking about costing the data, risk or complexity metrics, then outcomes for length of stay. So all these are some of the words which we come across in a specific example. And another thing is normalization of words. When you go for a medicine or a tablet or something like that, the supplier names it in a different way. And now AI has to take up another care that they have to normalize the words. Okay, so normalizing agent has to be enabled. So every person who is a specialist in medicines and all, they will write it in some other unique way. Sometimes you don't know the handwriting, only what they're writing. So what happens is, unless you have some normalizing agent, people are unable to talk in normal way. So femoral component, all these kind of people who only know medicines, they are able to know what is normal and what is not normal. Okay, but normalization is a way forward. The AI is built with some kind of languages that makes your life more easier. That's what is the entire episode which is being given in terms of health catalyst. Okay, then we'll not go into ontology mapping and all those things. So what they have to understand is the overall statistics at the end of the day, which is being provided, should have some mean, medium, mode, and most must account for procedures specific, patient specific diagnosis. Okay, so it should be more personalized kind of a thing, you can say. And opportunities are there which has to be enabled to have specific supply cost for same procedures across all the providers. Means same kind of procedures done elsewhere should cost the same way. It should not like that it's haphazard. Like some hospitals are providing for the same kind of treatment, another hospital charging too much exorbitant prices. Some other hospital will charge less. So AI in a way it is going to have a healthy way of balancing out, and it is creating a play field whereby a specific kind of treatment should be within some kind of normal ranges which can be easily estimated. That's why the models have to be come up with. Then there are quality improvement agents. Okay, then when we go to the next class, we will go into much depth of what is the meaning of quality, Six Sigma quality, then Kaizen, then we got 5S, then there could be continuous improvement, then PDSS. All these are coming from supply chain management domain. But then analytical approach, more or whatever analytics, even if you use Instagram these days also, you'll have analytics. Even if you say Facebook, it will have analytics. Okay, every component will have analytics. Basically, it's about how much it has been given in terms of return on investment. So whatever investments have we done, whether it's given us back what has been invested. So there are various reasons as to why we can go for the quality improvement agent. But anyway, since the next topic itself about quality, will not spend much on that. So domain or initiative focused. First of all, one has to be clear is about whether we are doing it for the domain, whether we are doing the work for our boss, whether we are doing the work for the patient, whether we are doing the work for the hospital, whether we are doing the work for the domain, or we are doing for the work just for the sake of AI or for the healthcare. Those things is what the quality improvement agent has to be able to comprehensively think about. So it is about planning. See, the planning phase extends one. Do we understand the problem at hand? Do we know where we want to be in the next 4 to 5 years? Do we know what the cause and what is going to change in the coming years? Do we have the plan, or can we afford that plan to be implemented? Then have we applied or measured or done it or implemented elsewhere? Or if there's a use case, then that example has to be taken. Did the changes result in any kind of improvement? That's what is study. So you have a PDSA cycle. That's what we are talking about in the initial stage. PDSA cycle here: analyze and diffuse and sustain. So one has to have a comprehensive understanding about all the cases, and you can, I mean, even in your portal also, there are some instances whereby there are cases of a day of a manager, or how a healthcare manager or healthcare operator day, or you can watch on the portal. That will give a brief idea about where actually what kind of work will be there, what kind of administrative work will be there, what part will be considered AI, how much components you will have to learn, what are the things upcoming in the future, why project management, and what are the tools in project management. As we have discussed, only two tools right now, so waterfall and agile. So there could be another set of tools which could be learned, including quality improvement agent and including normalization and whatever we have done. So these things should enable the transformation from idea to the product. Okay, so the future of AI in healthcare will favor organizations that treat the infrastructure, governance, and validation as core competencies and not afterthoughts. So what this means is, it is not added as an aftermath of after happening something, then it is not should be added. Okay, it is essentially used because it is very much essential for running the organization. So it should be like that. So without foundational infrastructure, one should know the foundation. That's why your subject is foundations or the basics of project management. So why this project management is used at all in the first place? Because the AI tools risk becoming unmanageable at times. People are getting fed up with a lot of data being fed into the system. People are just happy with the minimum data what is being used on a day-to-day basis. Poorly integrated algorithm can introduce bias and erode the clinician's trust. People are losing trust basically because of overfeeding the data. So, and sometimes like insurance, if you pick up the phone and you're trying to have scam, press 1 for the claiming the insurance, press 2 for adding the premium, press 3 for understanding who you are, press 4 for adding Aadhaar card number, press 5 for adding PAN card number, and press 6 for documentation. If you go like everything is becoming mechanical, then it will lead to operational inefficiency rather than solving the problem. Okay, so making this meaningful is a way ahead, and balancing these two means growth in technology in one field versus what actually is required for the hospital. This is all about, maybe one is more or one is less, but this is all about balancing these two aspects of management, operational management. So in healthcare operations management, utilizing the project management tools by using the developments happening in both the engineering and the AI industry, and enabling the transformation to analyze and selectively use the idea to the product is very important. Not use all the ideas, because it becomes only data centric. It's not patient centric. Everybody is doing just for the data. Somebody is generating the data, some other person is consuming the data throughout, but nobody is saying what is happening, okay, exactly to the person who's suffering. So so what success looks like: health catalyst solutions using data bricks. Okay, they are saying every set of data is a data bricks. Okay, now for example, reducing avoidable emergency, how many things? Patient appointment access, how many times? Improving surgical outcomes, how many times? Optimizing patient throughput is how many times? So each and every set of data is looked at from a different perspective. So in future, as it works out, there could be a level playing field whereby priorities will change significantly. There will development of happening over all over within the kind of systems which are evolving over a period of time. So always the Databricks is kind of a case study in where we are focusing on massive siloed and fast moving data into unified data across the enterprise. Okay, everywhere if you go to hospital, you have got very slow moving and sometimes very fast moving into a unified data across the enterprise to achieve a budget freed for investments into new data and AI initiative. Then strict regulatory demands are there, but then unified governance for all assets. It should not be done for the sake of only regulatory demands. It should be unified governance for all the assets. So everybody has to have leverage. Quality data has to be meeting the business as well as regulatory demands, not just for business or not just for regulatory demands. It should be unified governance. And next comes complexity of AI integration. Transform the complexity of AI integration into AI-driven insights and performance. So AI-driven insights, but human focused, not because machine wants to have a report and attach all the reports and give it. So data-driven innovation that's easily scaled to every department, that could be easily implemented provided it is successful. Okay, so people are there to build and have faster insights, healthcare focused, main upon. So healthcare focused mainly and proven results and seamless integration and future-proof flexibility. So you can see this is how it is functioning. Earlier, only one or two measurements were used in the matrix. Okay, OR, ED, LOS, length of stay, and emergency department, length of stay. Slowly, one or two things were measured, like operation research. One or two tools were used earlier. Now expand VBC. Okay. Now there is one is value-based care systems have to be evolved. Value-based care systems. Okay. With little bit of understanding and support from the finance department, ambulatory, and as data matures, we'll have to inspect that slowly. And then from pilot study to enterprise scale impact. So there has to be done in every case. We cannot suddenly implement something by copying it from the West or something like that. So scaling clinical, financial, operational domains have to be understood. Okay, wherever there is a pain, start there. Try to understand the pain points of the guest or the pain points of the customers. So are the pain points of the patients, whereby you are trying to have a value-based care system. And modular approach has to be evolved over a period of time, and it should reduce the change fatigue. Because change is a constant. Every time there are so many changes, one will not be able to easily carve out what is good for the organization unless from different domains this knowledge is being utilized, and modular approach of what is exactly required, what is the pain point. Okay, how did he approach? How the patient came to know about the hospital in the first place? Okay, did he come to know about some model, somebody reference some or doctor, or did he come to know suddenly just because the name is good, or it was portrayed elsewhere? So the approachability has to be understood, and then value can be added, and then data maturity has to be understood. How much of data is having, whether it is in synchronization with outside stakeholders. So from pilot to enterprise scale impact has to be achieved for the project management, because everything is tried and tested only. Okay, there should be tried and tested measures. So from pilot to enterprise scale, that's how this operational management subject or even your kind of project management will work, because the team formation in the pilot stage, when everybody will be on the data side, on other people or specialists will be on other side, will not give better results. So in order to integrate all those things, modular approach is required. So I suppose we've added as much as value as required, not becoming too sloppy on the data side, since the older legacy systems cannot take the current day risks and complexity and pace of developments which are happening. The risks are there, like stalled return on investment, and people are finding newer platforms, but still they can retain those older ones. Why it matters? Because boards are losing patience, executives are under pressure to deliver the value. Everyone has got a target. There is a lot of fragmentation risk also. Everybody is working in silos in their own specialized department. So there will be multiple dashboards, disconnected ones. Right now, it looks like it is very costly to integrate everything, but Why it matters? Because it's impossible to align clinical operation financial outcomes without integration. So integration is required to match all these clinical requirements, operational requirements, and financial requirements and outcomes. And then compliance headwinds are there always. So compliance, suddenly there is a change in, let's say, tax regime, or there is suddenly a change in GST, or suddenly there is a change in legalities. So compliance headwinds are there. Compliance headwinds are there, and it has to implementable within a short span of time. So CMS rules, Medicaid redetermination, growing as scrutiny has to mature and take it within a few hours. Regulatory risk is real. Okay, we cannot outrightly tell that regulatory risk is only taken care by only the top level management. No, regulatory risk is from top level to bottom level, everybody has to finalize, and manual workarounds won't scale easily. So you have to understand the complexity, that why the status quo is no longer the safe. So project management techniques will go a long way in order to understand that can be things which are outcome based in terms of healthcare operations. Fine. So come to the end of the session. Are there any questions? Or we can close today's session? If there are any questions, please type in the chat box. There are a lot of things which are additionally linked in your portal. Kindly go through those videos as well. There is some video from Indeed also. Additional links. There are 1 or 2 videos in additional links which are provided. And hopefully, because every class will have a different topic, like last time about strategic management. This time it is about project management. Next time it will be about quality assurance. So it looks fragmented at times, but more or less everything is meant for the betterment of healthcare as well as the end users. Okay, this brings to the end of my presentation. Have a nice time.